Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they walk into a new year hoping it will be different without deciding how it will be different. And hope without direction is not a strategy. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you enter 2026 the same way you entered last year, reactive, busy, and unclear, then 2026 will not change your life. It will simply repeat it. This is not a motivational talk. This is a warning. Because the year doesn't care about your intentions. Time doesn't respond to your wishes. Life rewards clarity, not comfort. And if you stay with me until the end of this message, you won't just hear why planning matters. You'll understand what kind of plan actually works and why most people never create one. Let's start with something simple. We're told to believe in ourselves as if belief is something you can summon on command, like flipping a switch. As if one day you wake up, decide to believe harder, and suddenly everything changes. But belief doesn't come first. It never has. Clarity does. Clarity is what gives belief something to stand on. Without clarity, belief is fragile. It collapses the moment life pushes back. Confidence is not a personality trait reserved for a lucky few. It's a byproduct of knowing where you're going and why you're going there. When you know your direction, confidence follows naturally, almost quietly, because you're no longer guessing with every step. When you don't have a plan, every decision feels heavy. Even small choices drain you. You overthink simple things because there's no larger framework guiding you. You ask yourself questions like, is this the right move? Or what if I choose wrong? Not because the decision itself is complex, but because you don't know what it's connected to. Without clarity, every choice feels like it could derail your entire life. That weight builds up over time, turning decision-making into a source of stress instead of progress. Every opportunity feels confusing for the same reason. You don't know whether to say yes or no because you don't know what you're saying yes or no for. Opportunities don't become valuable on their own. They become valuable when they align with your direction. Without that direction, even good opportunities create anxiety. You fear missing out, but you also fear committing. So you hesitate, you stall, you second guess. And while you're stuck evaluating options, time keeps moving forward without you. Every setback feels personal when there's no plan. A rejection doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like a verdict on your worth. A failure doesn't feel like a lesson. It feels like proof that you're not enough. That's what happens when your identity is tied to outcomes instead of direction. Without clarity, you measure yourself by results alone, and when results don't show up, your confidence collapses. The problem isn't the setback. The problem is that there's nothing larger than the setback to hold on to. But when you have clarity, everything changes. Even fear knows where to sit. Fear doesn't disappear because fear is part of growth, but it stops running the room. It no longer gets to decide your actions. With clarity, fear becomes a passenger instead of the driver. You still feel it, but it doesn't control you. You understand that fear is a signal, not a stop sign. It tells you that what you're doing matters, not that you should quit. A plan doesn't eliminate doubt. Doubt is human. Doubt shows up whenever you're stretching beyond what you already know. But a plan gives doubt boundaries. It tells doubt you're allowed to exist, but you're not allowed to decide. When you have clarity, doubt can question you, but it can't paralyze you. You keep moving forward because you trust the direction, even when the path feels uncomfortable. Clarity simplifies your thinking. You stop asking, what should I do with my life? And start asking, does this move me closer to what I've already decided matters? That shift is powerful. It reduces noise. It reduces overwhelm. You no longer need to compare your journey to everyone else's because you're no longer trying to live everyone else's life. You're living yours intentionally. Without a plan, you don't feel uncertain. You feel lost. And lost people don't move forward. They move in circles. They stay busy but don't make progress. They start things and don't finish them. They confuse motion with momentum. From the outside, it looks like effort. From the inside, it feels exhausting. That's the danger of living without clarity. You expend enormous energy and still end up in the same place. Clarity gives your effort direction. It turns hard work into meaningful work. You still get tired, but it's a different kind of tired. It's the tired that comes from building something, not the tired that comes from running nowhere. When you're clear, even rest feels earned because you know what you're resting from and what you're preparing to return to. Confidence grows quietly in that environment. Not the loud, performative confidence that seeks validation, but the steady confidence that comes from alignment. You trust yourself more, not because you're perfect, but because you've made decisions and honored them. You've shown yourself that you can choose a direction and commit to it. That trust compounds over time. Each decision becomes easier because it's no longer isolated, it's connected to a larger vision. Clarity also changes how you respond to uncertainty. Instead of panicking when things don't go as planned, you adjust. You don't interpret obstacles as signs to stop, but as signals to refine. When you know where you're going, detours don't scare you as much because you understand they're part of the process, not the end of it. And perhaps most importantly, clarity gives meaning to patience. When you're clear, you don't rush results because you understand that progress takes time. You're willing to do the unglamorous work because you know what it's building toward. You stop needing constant reassurance because your direction reassures you more than external praise ever could. Belief becomes natural in this space, not fort-faked. It grows because your actions and intentions are aligned. You believe in yourself because you've given yourself something real to believe in, a direction, a reason, a plan. And once clarity is in place, confidence doesn't need to be chased. It arrives on its own, built quietly through consistent, intentional movement forward. Most plans fail long before the year even begins, not because people lack discipline or intelligence, but because they start in the wrong place. They start with what instead of why. What do you want this year? More money, better health, stronger relationships, more recognition, more freedom. These answers come quickly because they're easy, they sound good, they feel productive. But they're also shallow if they're not connected to a deeper reason. Without that reason, the plan looks solid on paper, but collapses the moment reality applies pressure. The question, what do you want, focuses on outcomes. The question, why do you want it, focuses on meaning. And meaning is what gives outcomes staying power. When the year gets hard and you're what won't carry you, it never does. Goals don't wake you up early. Numbers don't keep you disciplined when no one is watching. Targets don't comfort you when progress feels painfully slow. Your why does. Your why is the reason you continue when motivation fades and excuses feel justified. Your why is the anchor. Without it, everything drifts. With it, you stay grounded even when conditions are rough. Anchors are not designed to make the journey easy. They are designed to keep you from being swept away. When motivation disappears, it always does. Your why is what keeps you showing up. It's what reminds you that this effort is connected to something bigger than today's mood. It gives weight to your actions and purpose to your discomfort. When progress is slow, and it often is, your why reminds you who you are. Not who you wish you were, not who others expect you to be, but who you have decided to become. Without a why, slow progress feels like failure. With a why, slow progress feels like part of the process. You stop questioning your worth every time results don't show up immediately. You stop panicking, you stop quitting too early. A year built on outcomes alone is fragile. Outcomes depend on external factors, markets, people, timing, luck. A year built on reason is resilient. Your why doesn't change when circumstances do. It adapts, but it doesn't disappear. That's why people with a strong why don't give up when plans need to be adjusted. They don't interpret change as defeat. They see it as recalibration, not collapse. When your why is clear, discipline becomes easier. Not because you suddenly enjoy discomfort, but because you understand its purpose. You're no longer forcing yourself to act. You're choosing to act. There's a profound difference. Forcing creates resistance. Choosing creates ownership. Ownership is what sustains effort over time. You don't need constant motivation when your actions are aligned with your values. Without a why, success feels empty even when you achieve it. You reach milestones and immediately feel restless, asking, is this it? That's not because ambition is bad. It's because ambition without meaning doesn't satisfy. A clear why ensures that progress feels fulfilling, not hollow. It connects achievement to identity. You're not just doing things, you're becoming someone. Your why also acts as a filter. It helps you decide what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. Not every opportunity deserves your energy. Not every distraction deserves your attention. When your why is strong, you stop chasing everything that looks good and start committing to what truly matters. That focus saves you time, energy, and regret. As the year unfolds, challenges will test you, fatigue will show up, doubt will whisper. Results may lag behind effort. In those moments, surface-level goals won't be enough. You won't be sustained by the idea of more money or better outcomes. You'll be sustained by the reason those outcomes matter to you. The reason that touches something deeper than ego or comparison. If 2026 is not built on a clear reason, it will collapse under pressure. Not because you're weak, but because the foundation is pressure exposes what was never solid to begin with. A clear why turns pressure into refinement instead of destruction. It gives you the strength to endure, adjust, and continue when quitting would be easier. Your why is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about waking up each day knowing that even small actions matter because they're connected to something meaningful. When your year is led by your why, you don't need to be constantly inspired. You just need to remember why you started. Remember who you're becoming. Remember that the struggle has purpose. And when the year ends, you won't just measure success by what you achieved. You'll measure it by who you became in the process. That transformation doesn't come from what you wanted. It comes from why you wanted it. Some people say, I'm just seeing how things go, as if that stance is neutral, as if it carries no weight or consequence. But it's not neutral. It never has been. That sentence is a decision disguised as patience. It's a choice to delay responsibility. It's choosing comfort over clarity. And while it may feel harmless in the moment, it quietly shapes the direction of your life just as powerfully as any bold commitment ever could. If you don't choose a direction, life will choose one for you. Circumstances will decide. Other people's priorities will decide. Urgent demands will decide. You won't wake up one day and find yourself lost all at once. You'll drift there slowly, one unchosen day at a time. And because nothing dramatic happens, it feels safe. It feels like you're avoiding mistakes. In reality, you're avoiding decisions, and avoidance has consequences. If you don't design your days, distractions will fill them. Days don't stay empty, they get occupied. Notifications, requests, entertainment, obligations, they rush in the moment you leave space unmanaged. You tell yourself you'll focus later, but later never arrives because there's no structure protecting it. What you don't intentionally schedule gets replaced by whatever demands your attention the loudest. And over time, you begin to confuse being busy with being productive. If you don't plan your future, your past will repeat itself. Not because you lack ambition, but because habits don't change without intention. Patterns don't break on their own. You fall back into familiar routines because they require less thought. You default to what you know, even if it no longer serves you. Without a deliberate plan, yesterday quietly becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow starts looking a lot like last year. Drift feels harmless because it doesn't hurt right away. There's no immediate penalty. No warning sign, no moment where an alarm goes off. You still get up, you still show function. That's what makes it dangerous. It allows you to postpone hard choices while telling yourself you're being flexible. But flexibility without direction is just drift with better branding. Drift is expensive, it costs time first. Time you assume you'll have more of later. Time you believe you can make up. But time doesn't refund itself. It moves forward regardless of whether you're ready. Months pass, years pass, and one day you look back and realize how much potential was spent on waiting instead of building. It costs energy. Not the kind of energy that comes from focused effort, but the kind that leaks away through indecision. When you don't know where you're going, everything drains you. Every choice feels heavier than it should. Every new idea feels overwhelming. You spend energy debating instead of doing, worrying instead of progressing. That constant mental noise leaves you tired without feeling accomplished. It costs potential most of all. Potential doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly. It dulls when it's not challenged. It shrinks when it's not exercised. Drift doesn't kill potential, it starves it. You don't fail dramatically. You simply never fully arrive anywhere meaningful. And that realization, when it finally hits, is one of the most painful forms of regret. The worst part is that you don't notice the cost until years later. Drift doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It lets you feel comfortable while slowly trading your future for convenience. Only in hindsight do you see how many chances you had to choose differently. Only later do you realize that the life you're living is not the result of a bold decision, but of many small ones you never made. Choosing a direction doesn't mean you'll never change course. It means you've decided to move with intention. Direction gives you something to measure against. It allows you to adjust instead of wander. Without it, you mistake motion for progress and flexibility for freedom, until you realize you've been moving for years without getting closer to anything that matters. Drift keeps you reactive. You respond instead of create. You manage instead of lead. You wait for clarity instead of generating it. And the longer you stay in that state, the harder it becomes to imagine another way of living. You normalize dissatisfaction. You tell yourself this is just how life is. But it's not. It's just what happens when decisions are delayed long enough to feel permanent. Life rewards direction, not perfection. You don't need a flawless plan to avoid drift. You need a decision, a commitment to stop floating and start steering. Even a small course correction can change everything, but only if it's made consciously. When you finally recognize drift for what it is, it becomes impossible to unsee. You realize that passivity is not peace, it's surrender. And surrender always comes with a cost, not immediately, not loudly, but inevitably. A goal is a destination. It is the point on the horizon that draws your eyes and fuels your ambition. It represents something you want to achieve, a milestone that promises growth, recognition, or fulfillment. But a goal by itself is fragile. It is a vision, a wish, a spark of desire. It does not on its own create change. Without action, without structure, without a method to reach it, a goal remains just that, a point on the horizon you admire from afar but never approach. Most people understand this intellectually, but they fail to act on it in practice. They set goals, feel inspired for a few days, a week at most, and then reality shows up. Life gets busy, challenges appear, motivation fades, and suddenly that goal that once seemed so achievable begins to feel out of reach. That is the natural cycle when a goal exists without a system. On the other hand is how you get there. A system is the daily practice, the habits, the small actions repeated over time that gradually build toward the result you want. A goal is the destination. A system is the roadmap, the vehicle, the engine that moves you forward. If you rely solely on the spark of inspiration or bursts of willpower to achieve a goal, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Motivation is fleeting. Willpower is finite. Life will always test your limits, and when it does, only a system can carry you forward reliably. It is the structure, the framework, the repeatable process that ensures progress happens even when you don't feel like it. Most people set goals in a moment of clarity or excitement. They imagine themselves 6 months from now, transformed, accomplished, proud. For a week, they feel unstoppable. They wake up early, exercise, work diligently, and remind themselves of their vision. But soon, the first obstacle appears: a long day at work, a family obligation, a minor illness, a distraction. Suddenly, the energy they thought was limitless is gone. And without a system to rely on, the goal collapses like a house of cards. The gap between intention and reality becomes obvious, and discouragement sets in. The result is that most people never move beyond the initial excitement phase. They talk about what they want, they dream about it, but when the day-to-day reality arrives, they drift, frustrated, or simply give up. A real plan doesn't rely on willpower. It relies on structure. Willpower is seductive. It makes us feel like we are in control, but it is unreliable. Some days it is strong, other days it is weak. Structure, systems, processes, these do not fluctuate. They create consistency. They remove the burden of choice and judgment from every decision. A well-built system turns action into habit. It ensures that even on days when you are tired, unmotivated, or distracted, you continue moving toward your goal because the path is built into your routine. Systems don't ask how you feel today. Systems ask only that you show up and follow the process. And over time, the system compounds into progress. Consider the difference between saying, "I'll work out more," and asking when, where, and how will I work out? The first statement is vague. It leaves too much to chance and assumes that motivation will appear at the right time. The second is precise. It defines actions, timing, and context. It removes ambiguity. When you know exactly what you need to do and when the decision-making friction disappears, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop wasting energy debating whether to start or not. You simply follow the steps you have already designed. That is the power of a system. It turns intention into action consistently. The same principle applies to professional goals. Saying, "I'll grow my business," is only a dream without structure. To create real progress, you need to define the daily actions that compound into growth. What do you do when no one is watching? How do you manage your time, track progress, and refine processes? Systems answer these questions. They transform vague ambitions into actionable routines. They make success predictable, not dependent on luck or temporary energy. Systems do more than produce results. They shape identity. Repetition forms habit. Habit forms character. Character forms identity. When you commit to a system, you are no longer just chasing outcomes. You are becoming someone who embodies the behaviors required to succeed. Systems turn intention into identity. You don't just want to be fit. You become someone who works out consistently. You don't just want to be productive. You become someone who manages time effectively every day. You don't just want to achieve. You become someone who takes consistent action, regardless of circumstances. This transformation is what makes systems so powerful. Goals alone cannot do it. Systems do. The truth is you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Motivation, inspiration, and raw ambition may get you started, but they do not sustain you. Your daily processes, habits, and structures determine whether you achieve your goal or let it fade into a memory. Small, repeated actions create massive results over time. The way you organize your days, how you manage your energy, and how you follow through on commitments, the invisible architecture of your life is what shapes outcomes, not the lofty goals themselves. Without a system, you are relying on chance, luck, and the occasional burst of willpower. With a system, you are building momentum that cannot easily be derailed. Systems also provide clarity. When you have a method, you know exactly what to do next. You remove ambiguity. You reduce wasted energy on indecision. You stop oscillating between options and wondering whether today matters. Every step has purpose. Every action moves you closer to your desired outcome. That kind of focus is impossible to achieve through sheer desire alone. Systems give you direction and discipline without the constant internal debate about whether to act. Finally, systems create resilience. Life will throw obstacles in your way: illness, setbacks, delays, disappointments. Motivation alone cannot carry you through these moments. A system can. When you are following a process that is built into your identity, you continue despite adversity. You don't stop because the conditions aren't perfect. You adjust while keeping the framework intact. That resilience is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who merely dream about them. It is the difference between fleeting inspiration and lasting success. So if you want to achieve anything in life, understand this: a goal without a system is nothing more than a wish. Dreams are fragile. They vanish under pressure. Intentions alone do not produce results. What produces results is consistent, deliberate action structured in a way that removes reliance on luck, chance, or temporary energy. A system is your roadmap, your engine, your blueprint. It turns aspiration into reality, intention into identity, and effort into outcome. And when you recognize that, you stop hoping for motivation and start designing your life. You stop wishing for results and start building them. One system at a time. Motivation is emotional. It comes in bursts. It appears when you feel inspired, when something excites you, when the external conditions are favorable. Motivation is powerful in those moments, but it is fleeting. It cannot be relied upon to carry you through the days when life feels ordinary, when tasks feel repetitive, when energy is low, or when challenges seem insurmountable. Motivation is a spark, but sparks burn out quickly if they are not anchored to something enduring. That is why so many people start with fire in their hearts and end with frustration, because they confuse motivation for a sustainable force. They think that feeling excited or inspired is enough to move them forward, but life is rarely aligned with how we feel. It doesn't wait for us to be motivated. It keeps going day after day, regardless of our moods or enthusiasm. Consistency, on the other hand, is intentional. Consistency is not dependent on emotion. It does not require a perfect mood, a burst of energy, or a moment of inspiration. Consistency is a decision made repeatedly, a commitment to act even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who remain stuck in cycles of hope and disappointment. While motivation shows up sporadically, consistency shows up reliably. It shows up in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when the effort is mundane, when the work feels tedious, and when the immediate payoff is invisible. And those are precisely the moments where true progress is made. Real growth does not happen in the excitement of the moment. It happens in the repetition of ordinary actions over time. Motivation shows up when things are exciting. It shows up when the new year begins, when you set your resolutions, when you feel a surge of energy and ambition. Motivation fuels grand gestures, dramatic starts, and bursts of productivity. It is contagious and energizing, and it feels good. But motivation is fragile because it is tied to emotion. The moment the excitement fades, the tasks remain, and motivation alone is not enough to carry you forward. Many people start projects, businesses, routines, or goals full of motivation, only to watch them stall because motivation cannot sustain long-term effort. Motivation is not a reliable companion on the journey of growth. It is a temporary spark, useful for ignition but not for continuation. Consistency shows up when things are boring, and boring is where progress lies. True transformation, whether in personal growth, professional achievement, or skill development, happens in the mundane. It happens in the repetition of simple actions done correctly, day after day. It happens in the moments when you do not feel like it, when the novelty has worn off, and when the results are not immediate. Progress is made in the cumulative effect of small, predictable actions. This is why consistency is more valuable than motivation. Motivation can get you started, but consistency ensures that you finish. Consistency turns effort into momentum, momentum into results, and results into habit. Motivation can spark a fire, but consistency builds a fortress. A plan does not ask, "Do I feel like it today?" A plan is indifferent to mood. A plan does not negotiate with your excuses or your whims. A plan is built on commitment, tension, and structure. It says, "This is what we do, no matter how we feel." This distinction is critical because feelings are fleeting, but results require persistence. A plan does not wait for enthusiasm to arrive. It assumes you will act regardless of emotional state. When your actions become predictable, when you follow a system or routine reliably, your results become inevitable. You no longer rely on luck, bursts of inspiration, or fleeting motivation. You rely on the process you have built and your willingness to follow it consistently. Consistency also creates identity. When you act consistently, you begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer someone who hopes, wishes, or dreams about results. You are someone who acts, who shows up, who delivers. Your habits define you. Your repeated actions sculpt your character. Identity is built in the spaces between motivation and execution, in the quiet moments where you choose to act even when it is hard, even when it is boring, even when no one is watching. Motivation can inspire action, but consistency turns action into who you are. It is not just about achieving results, it is about becoming the type of person who naturally produces those results. Another key aspect of consistency is resilience. Life will test you. Days will feel long, obstacles will appear, and results may seem slow or invisible. Motivation cannot carry you through these moments because motivation is tied to feelings and conditions. Consistency, however, is a choice. It is a commitment to keep moving forward despite adversity, fatigue, or frustration. It builds momentum that cannot be easily stopped. When you act consistently, you build trust in yourself. You prove to yourself that you are capable of showing up even when circumstances are imperfect. That trust compounds over time, reinforcing both your confidence and your capability. Consistency also simplifies decision-making. When your actions are predictable, you remove unnecessary friction from your life. You don't spend energy debating whether to act. You don't waste time weighing options when a simple yes or no could suffice. You create routine systems and processes that guide your behavior automatically. The less you rely on fluctuating emotions or energy levels, the more efficient and effective you become. Consistency turns uncertainty into predictability, chaos into order, and intention into tangible progress. Finally, consistency compounds results. Small actions repeated over time create outcomes far greater than sporadic bursts of effort. Motivation may create short-term success, but consistency produces long-term transformation. A single motivated day may feel productive, but a single consistent day repeated over months and years becomes life-changing. Results are the byproduct of persistent action, not fleeting emotion. When you commit to consistency, you make progress inevitable. You align yourself with the principle that success is not a moment, it is a habit. It is not excitement, it is discipline. It is not motivation, it is consistency. So if you want to achieve anything meaningful, remember this. Motivation alone will never be enough. Motivation can ignite, but only consistency sustains. Motivation can inspire, but only consistency produces results. Motivation is emotional, consistency is intentional. Motivation shows up when everything is exciting. Consistency shows up when life is ordinary, mundane, and even boring. The most powerful transformations happen not in moments of inspiration, but in the daily practice of showing up, following your plan, and acting as the person you want to become. When your actions are predictable, disciplined, and repeated, your results are inevitable. Consistency beats motivation every single time. 2026 will offer you more noise than ever before. More opinions, more shortcuts, more comparisons, more advice than you could ever read or watch, more trends, more strategies, more distractions masquerading as opportunities. Every day will feel louder than the last, and the pressure to act, to respond, to keep up will be relentless. It will come from every direction: social media, news, colleagues, friends, family, your own mind. Without a plan, it will feel like you have to chase everything at once, as if missing one thing will make you fall behind, as if saying no is failing. When everything feels urgent, when every ping, every notification, every trending topic screams for your attention, it becomes impossible to focus on what actually matters. The mind starts spinning, the energy dissipates, and progress halts, not because you are incapable, but because you have allowed the noise to control your time and attention. Without a plan, distractions rule. You wake up with good intentions, but by mid-morning, your day is dictated by what feels immediate. Emails, texts, alerts, and demands pile up. You react instead of act. You respond instead of create. You are pulled in directions that have nothing to do with your priorities. That's the cost of drifting in a world filled with noise. Your actions are no longer aligned with your goals, and yet it feels like you're busy. Business feels productive. Motion feels meaningful. But this is a lie. Without a plan, the very act of being active becomes a distraction from your real objectives. You are constantly doing, but rarely achieving. With a plan, everything changes. With a plan, you know what to ignore. A plan acts as a filter for your attention. It tells you, this matters, that does not. A plan gives you criteria for decision-making that prevent you from being swayed by every passing trend or urgent-looking request. You no longer have to weigh every option on the table because your priorities are already clear. When the noise comes, you can sift through it quickly, recognize what is irrelevant, and focus only on what aligns with your purpose. That is freedom, not limitation. You are no longer a slave to every alert or every demand. You are a master of your own focus. A plan doesn't limit freedom, it creates focus. Many people fear planning because they confuse it with restriction. They think a plan boxes them in, takes away spontaneity, or prevents them from exploring options. The opposite is true. A plan creates freedom because it gives you clarity about what to do and what not to do. Once you know your direction and the actions required, you are free to ignore distractions without guilt. You don't have to chase every opportunity that crosses your path. You don't have to succumb to every opinion that tells you what you should be doing. You can confidently follow the path you've set, knowing that it is the one that will produce results. Focus is how ordinary people produce extraordinary results. Extraordinary results are rarely a product of luck, natural talent, or endless work hours. They are the product of concentrated, consistent effort toward a clearly defined goal. Focus multiplies your energy, time, and intelligence. When you focus on what matters most, your actions compound. The distractions that drain most people's energy are filtered out, and your time is spent on high-impact activities that actually move the needle. The ability to focus is a skill, and a plan is the structure that makes focus possible. Without focus, effort scatters. With focus, effort becomes strategic, deliberate, and powerful. A plan also protects your mental energy. Constant decision-making about priorities wears you down. Every time you ask yourself, should I do this or that, you expend cognitive energy. Without a plan, these decisions pile up until you are exhausted and your performance suffers. With a plan, many of those decisions are made in advance. You know the steps, the priorities, and the boundaries. That frees mental space to be creative, to solve real problems, and to take decisive action where it truly matters. The plan is your shield against the depletion caused by constant choice, fatigue, and distraction. When distractions appear, you won't panic or overact. A plan gives you perspective. You can ask, does this align with my goal? Does this move me forward? If the answer is no, you can let it go. You don't get caught in the emotional pull of urgency. You don't need to chase every shiny object, follow every trend, or respond to every demand. You can calmly stay on your course, knowing that the noise is just that noise, not signal. Without a plan, the line between urgency and importance blurs, and you end up chasing everything but nothing effectively. With a plan, that line is clear. You spend your energy where it matters most. Distractions are seductive because they promise instant gratification or quick results. They tempt you with the illusion of progress while taking you further from your real objectives. Social media, emails, unplanned meetings, reactive tasks, all of these feel productive but rarely deliver meaningful outcomes. A plan equips you with the ability to see through the illusion. It gives you the power to say no without hesitation and to guard your most valuable resource, your time. It allows you to spend your energy in alignment with your purpose, not in reaction to every noise around you. The world will never make it easy to focus. It thrives on distraction. There will always be new shortcuts, shiny opportunities, and competing opinions vying for your attention. Without a plan, you will constantly be pulled in every direction, losing sight of your own priorities. With a plan, you create a protective boundary around your attention, energy, and time. You design your life rather than letting it be designed for you. You decide what matters, what to pursue, and what to ignore. That is power. That is clarity. That is how ordinary people achieve extraordinary outcomes. When you protect yourself from distraction, progress becomes inevitable. You no longer depend on luck, motivation, or random bursts of energy. You create conditions where meaningful action is possible every day. Focused, intentional effort compounds over time, and the results are unstoppable. A plan turns chaos into order, noise into signal, and potential into achievement. It is not a restriction on your life. It is a guide that ensures your efforts produce what you set out to achieve. Ultimately, distraction is the enemy of progress, and a plan is your defense. It gives you clarity, perspective, and the confidence to ignore what doesn't serve your purpose. It allows you to stay aligned with your goals and consistent in your efforts. It turns urgency into priority, randomness into intention, and business into productivity. A plan protects you, focuses you, and equips you to achieve results far beyond what casual effort or fleeting motivation could ever produce. In a world filled with more noise, more opinions, more shortcuts, and more comparisons than ever before, a plan is not optional, it is essential. It is the difference between wandering through a year and intentionally shaping it. It is the difference between ordinary outcomes and extraordinary results. Planning feels uncomfortable because it forces honesty, and honesty is never easy. It forces you to confront yourself in ways that are uncomfortable, even painful. To plan effectively, you must strip away the illusions you've built around your life. You have to admit what truly matters to you, and just as importantly, what doesn't. It requires looking beyond fleeting desires, beyond superficial distractions, and beyond what other people expect of you. Planning exposes the gaps between where you are and where you want to be. And that confrontation is uncomfortable because it shines a light on the ways you've been drifting, procrastinating, or settling. Most people avoid this honesty because it feels too raw, too immediate, too demanding. They convince themselves that thinking about the year is optional, that clarity will somehow emerge through hope or luck, that life will unfold as it should without intention. But this avoidance comes at a cost far greater than the temporary discomfort of planning. The pain of planning is temporary. The moments spent reflecting, analyzing, prioritizing, and mapping out your days may feel uncomfortable, but it is a controlled discomfort. It is the kind of effort that yields clarity and direction. It is concentrated and deliberate, a short-term investment for long-term gain. When you sit down and lay out what truly matters to you, when you decide what actions will move you forward and which habits will support your goals, you are not avoiding discomfort. You are using it as a tool. It is a conscious confrontation with reality, and though it feels challenging in the moment, it equips you to face the year ahead with focus, intention, and resilience. The pain of regret, on the other hand, is permanent. Regret lingers. Regret is cumulative. It is the invisible weight carried by those who spend years reacting instead of acting, drifting instead of deciding, waiting instead of moving. Regret is the sense of having wasted time on things that did not matter, of having said yes to distractions and no to opportunities that could have transformed your life. Regret does not fade quickly because it is tied to the life you did not live. It is not a fleeting discomfort. It is a persistent reminder of choices avoided, plans unmade, and potential unrealized. And the worst part about regret is that it cannot be undone. You cannot reclaim lost time or the momentum you could have built if only you had acted intentionally. Planning feels hard in the moment, but it is temporary. Regret feels endless if you let the year unfold without it. If you don't plan, you'll spend the year busy, but unfulfilled. You will fill your days with activity, responding to what demands your attention rather than acting on what matters most. Your calendar will be full, but your life will not feel meaningful. You'll check boxes, attend meetings, complete tasks, and yet at the end of the day, you may feel as though nothing substantial was accomplished. You will have motion without progress, activity without achievement, noise without signal. The business will give you a false sense of productivity, but it will not bring satisfaction. You will feel tired, exhausted even, but not proud. You will measure your worth in actions taken, not outcomes achieved, and slowly, that exhaustion becomes a form of quiet despair. Active, but unchanged, you will move. You will try, you will do the work, but without direction, your efforts scatter and dilute. You will put in hours, energy, and resources, yet the patterns of the year will mirror the patterns of the past. Change requires intention. Effort alone is not enough. You can be busy for months and see little difference because without a plan, you lack focus, structure, and strategy. You will find yourself repeating mistakes, revisiting old struggles, and watching opportunities slip past because your actions were reactive, not proactive. You will be active, but the activity will not lead to transformation. You will run in place, expending energy but not moving toward the life you envision, exhausted but not proud. The difference between true accomplishment and mere business is that accomplishment is intentional. It is aligned with purpose, driven by deliberate choices. Business, however, is reactive. It consumes energy without producing lasting impact. When you approach the year without a plan, you will likely experience both. You will work hard, you will sweat, you will tire. But at the end of the year, you will look back and see that much of your effort was scattered, that progress was uneven, that potential was left untapped. Exhaustion without pride is a heavy cost because it leaves you questioning whether the effort was worth it, whether your time has been spent wisely, and whether the next year will be any different. So don't enter 2026 hoping for discipline. Discipline is important, but it cannot be wished into existence. Discipline is not something that magically appears when you want it. Discipline is built through preparation, structure, and intention. Enter the year with direction, because direction provides the framework that discipline requires. Direction gives context to your actions, meaning to your efforts, and clarity to your choices. Discipline without direction is energy wasted. Discipline with direction becomes unstoppable momentum. Don't enter wishing for confidence. Confidence is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. Confidence grows when you act, when you make decisions, when you follow through. You cannot hope your way into confidence. You must plan your actions, define your priorities, and commit to steps that will carry you forward, even in the absence of certainty. Confidence arises from consistency, from preparation, from intentional movement in alignment with your goals. Planning is the vessel through which confidence is built, because when you know your path, when you have a map for the year, confidence naturally follows. Don't enter waiting for change. Change is not something that happens to you. It is something you create. Waiting for circumstances, opportunities, or inspiration to arrive before taking action is a trap. The world will not align itself to your desires. Time will continue whether you act or not. Waiting without planning is drifting, and drifting ensures that the year will pass with minimal progress. Instead, enter having decided. Decide where you want to go, decide what you are willing to prioritize, and decide what actions will define your year. Decision creates momentum, and momentum generates results. Without decisions, the year will control you instead of the other way around, because the future doesn't belong to the most talented. Talent is valuable, but it is often overestimated. The world is full of talented individuals whose potential never manifests because they lack intentionality. Talent without action is wasted. Skill without structure is fleeting. Intelligence without strategy is wasted energy. The future belongs to those who act intentionally, who plan deliberately, and who navigate life with purpose. Intentionality transforms potential into achievement. It converts effort into results and dreams into reality. And intention begins with a plan. Planning is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is the foundational step that transforms hope into action, dreams into outcomes, and uncertainty into clarity. It forces you to confront reality, define your priorities, and commit to your direction. Without a plan, you are at the mercy of circumstance, distraction, and chance. With a plan, you are in control. You know where you are going, how you will get there, and why it matters. Planning is the difference between wandering through the year and steering the year with purpose. It is the difference between regret and pride, between exhaustion without meaning and effort that compounds into transformation. The cost of no plan is far higher than the temporary discomfort of planning. The effort you put into designing your year pays off exponentially in clarity, confidence, and results. Enter 26 with a plan, because intention starts there, and everything else, the focus, the discipline, the confidence, and the results flows naturally from it.